Welcome to Dateline SAU, your source for the latest news and sports from St. Ambrose University. I'm Terry Koob.
And I'm Lindsay Voss. This spring, St. Ambrose changed the process and criteria for its housing application process. In previous years, housing was assigned based on priority points. Each semester, a student is enrolled at St. Ambrose. They earn 1 priority point. Students with the most priority points picked their preferred housing first. Now students will get to choose housing based off of credit hours and GPA. Some students don't like the revised process.
If it's credit hours too, and there's kids taking 18 hours and I want a house and I'm taking 12 because I play baseball, then I don't know if I like that. I think priority is better. First come, first serve is always more fair, I think.
Okay. I really don't think a GPA determines a student either. I know plenty of people, including myself, who get all their work done on time, like do all their homework assignments and everything, papers. But when it comes down to taking a test, they freeze up because they have test anxiety, or maybe it's something else related to tests. But I know some people just aren't good test takers. So no, I really don't think GPA should be a factor because there's other factors that can affect the GPA.
Applications for housing are currently available to fill out. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about the new process, you can talk to Residence Life located in the Rogalski Center.
When students at SAU test positive for COVID-19, they need to be moved to isolation housing. With limited space on campus, the process of coordinating where students go during quarantine can be complicated. Housing and Operations Manager Matt Hansen is in charge of assessing each case and deciding where students will quarantine.
So initially, we set aside just over 1% of our housing for isolation housing, and at that point all guidance was that if someone were to move to isolation because they tested positive, that we should have only 1 person per unit. And then we realized, well, we can go to double occupancy, meaning 1 person on each side of the suite, and then ultimately we went to full capacity, and so we kept growing the number of isolation units.
Hansen said lounges, enrollment, and north halls can also be used as isolation units. When the buildings were renovated, private bathrooms with a shower and lockable doors were added to those spaces.
Students at St. Ambrose have had to adjust to an academic year with limited activities and online or hybrid classes, but some students are still doing what they can to make the most of their college experience.
Try and get to know people, because I think even if it's someone like not even within your own grade, but like even the same major as you're thinking of, they might be able to kind of give you perspective.
Several classes are still being held in person.
SAU Theater is back on the stage for the first time since the COVID-19 pandemic began. The play Admissions will be performed on the Studio Theater stage. Admissions explores white privilege through the lens of the college and high school admissions process.
It's really important to me as a director that I create art that has something to say. This play can at times just be really challenging. It's a play of white people calling out other white people, about white privilege and the hypocrisy of white liberalism, and inherently in that, it discusses race. And so making sure that we do that in a way that's respectful. We're really blessed that we have this opportunity.
The performances start the 24th of March and run through March 28th.
St. Ambrose radio station KALA experienced technical issues last week, which caused it to go off air. Operations Manager David Baker and Chief Engineer John Anderson worked with the university IT department to get the station back on as quickly as possible.
1, 2, 3 studios and an on-air control went down, and all of our online streaming. We were not even able to do any kind of production in the studios, so we had to shut everything down for just about 24 hours. So we're on the air. Everything's back to normal as it can be. The amazing thing is all of the phone calls and emails I got when we were off, people were concerned where we went. So we know people are listening and that they love KALA.
An error from a managed computer switch was the main cause for the technical issues. Coming up after a short break, the indoor track team claims another All-American at Nationals.
And the Fighting Bee football team has a rough outing at home against a nationally ranked team.
Dave Meyer will have these stories and more coming up after the break.
On Dateline SAU.
Right away, once I got to Ambrose, I was involved. I was on the newspaper, I was working in the broadcasting with the Ambrose television and news production, and through all of those different experiences, I really learned a lot about myself, and I really learned all kinds of skills that I still use today, and I'm really excited and proud that I still use all those skills today, and most of that foundational knowledge came from Ambrose in those classes.
The Fighting Bee football team was anxious to finally get to play a home game on its accustomed home turf, Brady Street Stadium. They were sitting at 1-1 on the season and looking to earn that second win. They knew they would have a tough test when nationally ranked Olivet Nazarene came to town on Saturday. The afternoon was perfect, weather-wise, for a football game with moderate temperatures and sunny skies. The Bees started out strong their opening drive, and it sets up this Tom Gillen 20-yard field goal, and St. Ambrose takes an early 3-0 lead. But the game turns quickly. The Tigers have a drive of their own, capped by this short touchdown run, to take a 7-3 lead. Soon, Olivet Nazarene is on the attack again, and this TD pass finds the Bees down by a score of 14-3. Still in the first half, the SAU offense stalls and the Tigers have the ball. It's Olivet's Jalen Dunnigan with some hard-fought yards after the catch, and Bees eventually dropped this one 40-10. The team managed less than 200 yards of total offense, with much of that coming after the game was already out of reach. 3 Olivet Nazarene quarterbacks threw for 268 yards, while St. Ambrose was just 7 for 23 in the air for 63 total yards. St. Ambrose University can claim another NAIA All-American, following the National Indoor Track and Field Championships in Yankton, South Dakota. She is Michaela Peroni. The sophomore runner finished 8th in the 5,000 meters, making her the first All-American distance runner in St. Ambrose women's track history. She was also part of the distance medley team with Megan Grady, Megan Jansett, and Emma Duncan. They finished 11th at Nationals. Also the best ever finish in that event at the Nationals for the SAU women. After dropping a doubleheader to Mount Mercy on Saturday, the Bees turned things around and swept a twin bill from the Mustangs on Sunday. A 3-run home run by Cooper Huckabone was the big blow in the opener, leading St. Ambrose to its first win of the season. James Cormier threw a complete game shutout in the nightcap as the Bees moved to 2-8 on the year. It's been a crazy run for the St. Ambrose men's soccer team. Trinity Christian tied the score in the final minutes of regulation and then scored in the golden goal in overtime. It was the 4th straight loss for the Bees, all of them in overtime. The women also suffered a loss at Trinity Christian, allowing the game's only goal in the second half. The team falls to 4-4 on the year, 3-3 in the CCAC. The Bees women's volleyball team hoped to extend their 4-game winning streak Tuesday night on the road at Trinity Christian. Despite Meredith Sieber's 11 kills and Amber Tomlin's 24 assists, the Bees would drop 3 straight sets en route to their 6th loss of the season. The Bees are still 7-4 in conference play. The St. Ambrose men's volleyball team was also in action, hosting Roosevelt University Tuesday at Lee Lohman Arena. The Bees cruised through the first 2 sets, winning both 25-19. With the game close at 26-25, Roosevelt tried to mount some resistance in the 3rd set, but a Jake Powers ace ended that hope, raising the Bees' record to 6-11. Men's lacrosse knocked off 8th ranked Aquinas College last weekend. Michael Keating led the way for the Bees with 4 goals. The men have won 3 in a row and are ranked 6th in the country. The women's lacrosse team was also successful on the road trip to Grand Rapids, Michigan. 7 Bees found the back of the net for St. Ambrose, with Delaney Ousted leading the way with 6 goals. The women are undefeated in their first 3 games of the season. And that's it for sports this week. I'm David Meyer.
And that's all we have for you on this edition of Dateline SAU.
We'll be back next week with the latest news and sports from St. Ambrose University.
Remember to check out the SAU TV Facebook and Instagram pages for our newscasts, late-breaking news, and more.
You can also find news stories and videos on The Hive at sauthebuzz.com.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next week.